Okay, I want to start today by asking you to do something a little unusual.
Huh.
I want you to picture a brick wall. It could be, I don't know, anything.
Yeah.
The side of an old elementary school, a historic library downtown, or maybe just the fireplace sitting in your living room.
Okay, got one.
When you look at that wall, really look at it, what's the first thing your brain
Oh,
registers?
it's the bricks, isn't it? That's almost instinctual for all of us.
Yeah,
We see the red clay rectangles, we see the solid units. That's what registers as wall.
exactly. We see the bricks. But for the next hour or so, I want us to completely ignore the bricks. We are going to obsess over the gray stuff between the bricks,
The mortar joints.
the invisible glue, as some of the research calls it. And I have to admit, before I went through this massive stack of ASTM standards and industry guides you sent over, I had a very low resolution understanding of mortar.
I think most people do.
I honestly thought it was just wet mud. You know, you buy a bag at the hardware store, you add some water from the hose, you slap it on, it dries, and you have a wall.
That is the Home Depot view of the world, and honestly, it's dangerously wrong.
Dangerously.
Or absolutely.
Yep.
If you treat masonry mortar like wet mud, you are going to have a structure that doesn't just look bad, it's going to fail. And sometimes that failure is catastrophic.
And that's what we are digging into today. We aren't talking about mud. We're talking about engineered pastes. We're talking about complex exothermic chemical reactions that are happening inside your walls right now.
Right.
And perhaps most surprisingly to me, we are going to talk about a secret code, literally an alphabet code used by Masons that determines whether a building stands for a century or starts crumbling in 5 years.
And that code is critical because of what we call the chimney paradox.
This was the hook that really got me. This was fascinating. The research presents a specific mystery. If you decide to build a chimney and you go out and buy the absolute strongest, hardest, best mortar on the market, the stuff that tests off the charts for strength,
Yeah, the top shelf stuff.
you are actually guaranteeing that the chimney will destroy itself.
It sounds completely counterintuitive. I mean, in almost every other area of engineering or construction, stronger is better.
Of course.
If you build a bridge, you want the strongest steel. If you build a skyscraper, you want high-strength concrete. But in masonry, specifically regarding weather exposure like a chimney, raw strength can be a fatal weakness.
So to solve this chimney paradox, we have to understand the ingredients. We need to look at the chemistry. We have documents here on Portland cement masonry mortars. We have the ASTM C270 standard, which I've learned is basically the Bible for this stuff.
It is, yeah.
And we have technical notes from the Brick Industry Association.
So we're going to break down the recipe, we're going to deconstruct the physics of this mason work scale, and figure out why a 100-year-old wall might just be smarter than a brand new one.
All right, let's get our hands dirty and get into the lab. When we say modern mortar, we aren't just talking about cement. The sources describe it as a system, a kind of trinity of ingredients.
Right. It's an engineered paste. You've got the binder, the aggregate, and the modifier. And then you have the activator, which is water.
Okay, I want to start with the aggregate, the sand. Because in my head, and I assume for many listeners, sand is just filler. It's the cheap stuff you throw in to bulk up the volume so you don't have to use as much of the expensive cement. It feels like the sawdust in a cafeteria meatloaf.
And that is the single most common misconception in masonry design, and it leads to so many problems.
Really?
If you view sand as just filler, you've already compromised the structural integrity of your project from the very start. Sand is the skeleton.
The skeleton, that's a very specific biological analogy.
But think of the mortar joint like a human body.
Yeah.
The binder, the cement, that's the muscle. It holds things together. It provides the tension and the pull.
Okay.
But you can't have a body made entirely of muscle. It would have no form. It would shrink, distort, and just collapse on itself. The sand provides the rigid structure. It provides the body. It resists volume change.
So the cement is really just there to coat the sand grains and stick them to each other. And to the brick, obviously.
Precisely. The binder forms a matrix that glues the sand particles into a fixed position. But this is where that filler mentality gets dangerous. The sources spend a lot of time talking about grading, specifically the ASTM C1454 standard.
Yeah, I saw the charts and the notes. It looked like a bell curve or a topographic map or something.
Grading just refers to the distribution of particle sizes. You have well-graded sand and poorly graded sand. And to understand why this matters so much,
Yeah.
I want you to imagine a large glass jar.
Okay.
If you fill that jar with nothing but basketballs, what happens?
You have a jar of basketballs and a lot of air in between.
Huge voids. massive empty spaces between the balls where they curve away from each other. Now imagine you pour in tennis balls.
Okay, they'd fall into the big gaps between the baskets.
Yeah, they settle into the gaps. Then you pour in marbles to fill the gaps between the tennis balls.
I see where this is going.
Then you pour in fine sugar to fill the microscopic gaps between the marbles.
You're packing the volume as tight as you can possibly get it.
That is well-graded aggregate. You have a spectrum of sizes from coarse to fine. This allows for efficient packing. When the particles pack together tightly, you reduce the void volume.
And why do we care about void volume? Is it just about density, getting it heavy?
It's about efficiency and strength. Every single void that isn't filled by a rock or a grain of sand has to be filled with paste, the cement and water mix.
Okay, the expensive stuff.
Exactly, the glue. So if you have poorly graded sand, say all the grains are exactly the same size, like our jar of only basketballs, you have massive voids.
Right.
You have to add a huge amount of cement paste just to fill the holes to create a solid mass.
Which sounds expensive, using all that cement, but is it bad structurally?
It's terrible structurally. The paste is the volatile part of the mix. The paste is the part that shrinks when it cures. The paste is the part that generates heat. The paste is the weak link regarding long-term stability. If you have too much paste, because your sand is bad, you get a wall that shrinks and cracks all over the place.
So good sand means you actually use less glue, but get a stronger result.
Exactly. It's totally counterintuitive. You want the rocks touching rocks. You want the load to transfer through the skeleton, not just hang in the muscle.
There was also a note here about surface area. It said if the sand is too fine, it ruins the mix. Why is that?
Right. Imagine you have a single solid block of wood. It has a certain surface area you need to paint, right?
Sure, the 6 sides.
Now imagine you run that block through a wood chipper and turn it into sawdust.
The surface area explodes. It's astronomical.
Millions of times more surface area. Now try to paint that sawdust. You'll need buckets and buckets of paint.
Yeah, it would be impossible.
The same applies to sand. If your sand is too fine, just dust, the surface area is enormous. You need so much water and paste just to coat all those tiny particles that the mix becomes weak and watery. It's unworkable.
So the sand isn't just dirt you dig up from the creek. It's a carefully selected, engineered component.
It creates the backbone of the entire system. Bad sand means a bad wall, period.
Okay, so that's the skeleton. Now let's talk about the muscle, ingredient number 2. Portland cement. The notes call this the primary hydraulic binder.
Yes. This is the engine of modern construction. And that word hydraulic is the key to understanding how it works.
Does that have to do with water pressure, like the hydraulics on a dump truck or something?
No, that's a common mix-up. In chemistry, hydraulic refers to how the material hardens. There is a fundamental misunderstanding that mortar dries.
Right.
If I spill water on the sidewalk, it dries. If I paint a wall, the paint dries. That is evaporation. But hydraulic cement does not dry. It hydrates.
It sounds like a distinction without a difference to the layperson. It gets hard.
It's a massive, massive difference. Drying implies the water leaves the system and goes into the air. It evaporates. Hydration is a chemical reaction where the water is consumed. It becomes part of the solid structure. The water actually reacts with the tricalcium silicate in the cement powder to form a new substance entirely.
A new material.
A new material.
Yeah.
Calcium silicate hydrate, or CSH.
And what does CSH look like? If we zoomed in with an electron microscope?
It looks like a forest of needles or crystal spikes. These tiny interlocking crystals grow out from the cement grains.
Wow.
And they interlock with each other, and they lock around the sand grains, physically grabbing them.
Like Velcro, on a microscopic level.
Stronger. Think of it more like interlaced fingers, but on a molecular level and made of rock. That interlocking crystal lattice is what gives modern mortar its incredible compressive strength. It binds the skeleton together.
So logically then, more cement equals more crystals, which equals a stronger wall.
Yes. It creates a pretty linear increase in strength. The more Portland cement you put in the bucket, the higher the PSI pounds per square inch the mortar can handle.
There's always a but.
And here is the foreshadowing for our chimney problem. It also increases brittleness.
Brittleness.
A high cement mix is like glass or cast iron. It's incredibly hard. It can take a lot of weight being pushed down on it. But if you stress it or twist it or try to bend it,
it snaps.
It snaps. It doesn't yield. It is rigid. And in the world of buildings, which are constantly moving and settling and expanding and contracting, rigidity isn't always a virtue.
Got it. Okay, so we have the skeleton sand and the rigid muscle cement. Now we get to the third ingredient, which the notes call the modifier or the secret sauce, hydrated lime.
Calcium hydroxide. In the modern construction world, especially among DIYers who just grab a bag of Mason mix off the shelf, lime is the most overlooked and misunderstood ingredient.
Yeah, I feel like cement gets all the marketing budget. It's the strong stuff. Lime feels, I don't know, archaic, like something we used before we invented the good stuff.
Which is deeply ironic because for thousands of years we built everything of just lime. The pyramids, the Colosseum, the Great Wall of China, that's largely lime mortar. Cement is the newcomer. It's only been dominant for about a century.
So what's its job in a modern mix?
In a modern mix, lime serves a totally different but crucial purpose. It provides workability.
The sources described it as making the mortar buttery. That made me hungry, but I assume they don't mean taste.
That's the classic Mason's term. This mix is buttery. Without lime, a mix of just sand and cement is harsh. It's gritty. It fights you.
What do you mean fights you?
You try to spread it with a trowel and it tears or slides off. It doesn't want to stick to the brick. It falls off the trowel in clumps. It's just not pleasant to work with.
Because the water is separating out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cement doesn't hold water very well. It bleeds. But lime particles are microscopic and plate-like. They have this huge surface area, and they hold on to water molecules with incredible force. When you add lime, the mortar suddenly becomes cohesive.
Oh.
It sticks to the trowel. It spreads like cream cheese on a bagel.
So it makes the mason's life easier. That's great for them, but does it do anything for the building owner in the long run?
It does two critical things for the building.
Okay.
First, by holding that water, it ensures the cement has enough moisture to finish that hydration reaction we talked about.
It acts like a little reservoir.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It prevents the mortar from burning out or drying too fast on a hot, windy day. It keeps the chemistry happy.
Okay, so it protects the chemistry. What's the second thing?
Second thing is something almost magical. It's called autogenous healing.
This was the part in the notes that sounded like science fiction. Self-healing walls. How does a rock heal itself?
It's basic chemistry, but it acts like magic. If a hairline crack forms in a lime-rich mortar, which happens, buildings settle, things move, and rainwater gets into that crack,
Yeah.
the water dissolves a little bit of the free lime, the calcium hydroxide that's available in the matrix.
Okay, so we have liquid lime water sitting in the crack now.
As that water migrates back to the surface and hits the open air, the dissolved lime reacts with carbon dioxide.
From the atmosphere.
From the air. It recarbonates. It turns back into limestone calcium carbonate. It literally grows stone inside the crack and seals it shut.
It fills its own wounds.
It does. Cement cannot do that. Once cement cracks, it stays cracked. It's inert. Yeah. Lime gives the building a rudimentary immune system. It allows the masonry to recover from minor damage over time.
That is wild. It makes the wall feel almost alive.
It's an incredible property.
So we have the skeleton, the muscle, and the healer. Finally, the activator, water, the Goldilocks ingredient.
Right, because you need enough to make it spreadable and enough to hydrate those crystals, but
every single drop of water, beyond what is chemically necessary to complete the reaction, is an enemy to the structure. This is the hardest thing for apprentices to learn.
why?
They want to add more water to make it easier to stir, easier to spread.
Why is that bad? Water evaporates. Doesn't it just go away and leave the hard stuff behind?
The water leaves, but the space it occupied remains. We call them capillary pores.
Think of it this way. The solid ingredients are the structure. The water is just spacing them out. If you have a sloppy soup-like mix because you added too much water, you are essentially building a Swiss cheese.
On a microscopic level.
Yes. When that excess water evaporates, it leaves behind a network of tiny tunnels and voids. These tunnels make the mortar weaker because there is less solid material per square inch. And critically, they make it more permeable.
They create a superhighway for rainwater.
A superhighway for rainwater to get deep into your wall.
So the perfect mix is actually as dry as you can possibly manage while still being able to work with it.
Correct. You want to minimize the void space left behind. You want a dense paste. And you also need to worry about what is in the water.
The notes mentioned potable water, drinkable water.
If you wouldn't drink it, don't put it in your mortar.
Why? What could be in it?
Specifically salt. If you use seawater or water with high mineral content, you're planting a time bomb. Those salts dissolve, they get into the mix, and eventually they will recrystallize somewhere else.
Which leads to efflorescence, that white powdery stuff.
Yes, those white stains you see on brick. But salts can also disrupt the chemical bonding of the cement itself. So clean, drinkable water only.
Okay, so we're going to hit pause on your training session for just a minute. I know you're probably deep in the weeds of, you know, a flue liner tutorial or something, but we really need to talk about who is actually producing all of this content.
Right. If you're here watching these videos, you're already getting the benefit of the training. But there's a much bigger ecosystem behind this YouTube channel. We're looking at chimneysweeps.com, and it's pretty clear this isn't just a media company. It's more like a funnel, a vetting engine for the industry.
That's a really important distinction because usually with these online directories, you just pay a fee, you get your pin on a map. Is that what's happening here? Is this just another pay-to-play model?
No. The documentation we have suggests it's the opposite. It seems like they're trying to solve that classic low-bidder problem that plagues the trades. They're not looking for advertisers. They're building a vetted network. And that standard, it seems to come directly from the founder, Ray Gessner.
I was looking at his bio. You don't often see this kind of background. It's this mix of high-level academic engineering and, actual trade mastery. You usually get the guy in the office or the guy in the truck.
Exactly. And that combination is really the key here. Ray isn't just some tech guy. He has a master's degree in civil engineering. He's a licensed professional engineer, a PE in multiple states.
But he also holds master licenses, HVAC, gas fitter, plumber.
And he's a certified home inspector through NACI.
So he's looking at a chimney as both a structural engineer and as a hands-on inspector. But how does that actually translate to the platform? Is it just good branding?
It seems to be baked right into the gatekeeping. Because he understands the physics, the code, the actual science behind it, the platform can enforce a technical standard that, a simple lead gen site just couldn't. Which brings us to their whole gold standard vetting process.
Okay, right. So for the professionals listening right now, the ones who are already doing great work, how does the platform actually verify that? How do they filter out the noise?
Well, it starts with the basics, the non-negotiables. You have to have the proper licensing, general liability insurance, workers' comp, all of that.
The table stakes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the real barrier to entry is the CCI exam, the Certified Chimney Inspector Test.
And this isn't just one of those watch a video and click a button certifications.
Oh, far from it. Ray Gessner developed this exam himself to test for technical accuracy, safety knowledge. It's designed to be difficult. It's a filter, plain and simple. It ensures that if a homeowner finds you through them, they're not just getting a name from a list. They're getting someone who passed a really tough technical evaluation.
Okay, so let's say a listener runs that gauntlet. They've got the insurance, they study, they pass the CCI exam, they're in. What's the actual utility for them? Why jump through all those hoops instead of, say, just buying more Google ads?
Because it shifts you from just being listed somewhere to being part of an operational support system. The sources show a few key benefits. First, there's the proprietary inspection report software.
Which I'm guessing is based on those same engineering standards we were just talking about.
Precisely. It automates the reporting, so your paperwork has the same rigor as the inspection itself. Then there's the community. You get access to these monthly online forums, mentorship, networking. It's like a mastermind group for ethical operators.
And that brings us to getting the actual clients. Let's talk about the number 833-Chimney.
That's the engine. The website, that phone number, they drive homeowners who are specifically looking for qualified professionals. These are not people just shopping for the cheapest price. They're looking for vetted expertise for big jobs, relining, structural engineering inspections.
So it creates this kind of feedback loop. You watch the free training, like the video you're probably watching right now, to get better at your job. Then you pass the exam to prove you're good. And then the platform sends you customers who actually value and are willing to pay for that expertise.
It helps the good guys build stronger businesses because they finally stop competing with the companies that are just cutting corners. It really elevates the trade.
So I guess here's the challenge for everyone listening. You are sitting here right now. You're learning for free from one of the best sources in the world. But the real question is, are you ready to capitalize on it? Are you good enough to pass that CCI exam, to join the network, and be recognized as one of the best?
If you think you're operating at that level, head over to the site. Click Join Us.
All right, we'll let you get back to your training now. Thanks for listening. Okay, so we have our ingredients. We mix them together. We have a wet paste. Now we enter part 2 of our deep dive, the transformation.
The curing process.
We touched on this with digestion, but let's dig a bit deeper. This process releases heat.
Right, it's an exothermic reaction, yeah.
So it's getting hot.
Oh, yeah. If you go to a massive construction site where they are pouring a huge concrete foundation and you put your hand near it a few hours later, You can feel the heat radiating off it.
Wow.
It's chemical energy being released as those crystalline bonds are formed.
That's fascinating. It's literally cooking itself from the inside out.
In a way, yes.
Hmm.
And this brings us back to porosity. How does the ratio of ingredients change this crystal structure? Because this is going to be vital for our chimney discussion.
Is it like a sponge? Can we think of it that way?
That's a good analogy. A high cement mix, the muscle mix, grows a very dense, tight network of crystals. The pores are tiny and discontinuous. It's like a very dense memory foam.
Okay, I can picture that.
It's strong, but it doesn't let air or water move through it easily. It's essentially a water barrier, a vapor barrier.
Okay. And a high lime mix.
A high lime mix is different. Lime doesn't form those same strong interlocking CSH crystals. It creates much more open structure. It's more porous. It's like a natural sea sponge with larger, more connected holes.
So the wall can breathe. I've heard that term.
That is the industry term, yes.
Uh,
Vapor transmission. In a high lime mix, moisture, vapor, humidity from inside your house or dampness from rain can travel through the mortar and escape.
it finds a path out.
But in a high cement mix, it hits a wall. It's trapped.
And that distinction, breathable versus barrier, is going to be the key to the chimney paradox.
It is the single most important factor. Strength is secondary to breathability in this context.
But before we climb onto the roof to fix the chimney, we need to understand the code. You can't just guess these ratios. The masons have a specific way of classifying these mixes.
No, you don't just eyeball it. You follow the standards. You absolutely must.
And it uses a mnemonic device that I actually found really helpful. Mason work.
Masonwork. It's a clever little trick that's been around forever. You take the capital letters M, S, N, O, K.
MSNOK. Those are the official ASTM C270 types.
Yeah, exactly. And if you are hiring a contractor or buying a bag of mix at the hardware store, these letters are stamped right on the front.
And choosing the wrong letter is a big deal.
Choosing the wrong letter is not just a minor error. It can be catastrophic. It's like putting diesel in a gasoline engine. The results won't be good.
Let's run through the scale then, from strongest to weakest, starting with type M.
Type M is the mighty one. That's how I remember it. It has the highest ratio of Portland cement.
What's the recipe look like?
The recipe is basically 1 part cement, just a 1/4 part lime, and about 3.5 parts sand. Very heavy on the cement.
And the strength stats are impressive. The notes say 2,500 psi. That's 2,500 pounds per square inch of pressure it can handle.
It is rock hard. It creates a rigid, impermeable seal. It sets fast. It cures hard. And it stays hard.
So where do we use the mighty M?
Below grade.
In the ground.
In the ground. Foundations. Retaining walls. Places where the masonry is touching the earth. You need it to resist the crushing weight of the soil. And crucially, you don't want it absorbing groundwater. You want it to be a barrier.
Okay, so M is for mighty and mud. Keep it in the mud. Next up is type S.
Type S is the structural or workhorse mix. It drops the cement slightly and ups the lime to a 1/2 part. Strength is around 1,800 psi.
So not as rock hard as M, but still really tough.
Correct. This is what you see in load-bearing walls for commercial buildings. If you're building a Walmart or a school with big concrete block walls, you're probably using Type S.
And why not M?
Because it balances high strength with better bonding capabilities than M. It has just enough lime to be a little more sticky and workable, which is important for getting a good bond between units.
Then we hit the middle of the scale, type N.
Type N, the normal or natural choice. This is 1-to-1 ratio, equal parts cement and lime.
And the strength drops off a cliff here. We went from 2,500 with type M, 1,800 with S, down to 750 psi for N.
That's the number. And this is where the average person gets completely confused. They look at the bag and think, 750 psi versus 2,500 psi? Why would I ever buy the weak stuff? I want a strong house. I'm not building a shack.
It feels like buying the discount brand. I'll take the diet mortar.
But 750 psi is incredibly strong. Think about it. That's 750 pounds on every single square inch. A 2x4 standing on end can't take that. It can easily hold up a 3-story house without breaking a sweat.
Okay.
The value of type N isn't its compression strength. It's its flexibility. Because it has more lime, it's softer, it can stretch a little, it breathes, it heals.
We're going to come back to type N because that's our hero today. But let's finish the scale. After N comes type O.
Type O is old or gentle, very low cement, high lime. The ratio flips here. It's 2 parts lime to 1 part cement.
And the strength?
It's around 350 psi.
That sounds weak, and now we're getting into what feels weak.
It's not weak, it's sauced. And that's what you want sometimes. We use this for interior walls that don't hold up the roof, or specifically for repointing delicate older masonry.
Repointing.
Grinding out the old, crumbling joints and putting new mortar in. If you have soft, 100-year-old handmade bricks, You need a soft mortar. If you use hard mortar on soft brick, you destroy the brick.
Ah, okay, compatibility. And finally, type K, the last letter.
Type K is almost extinct in modern construction. It's mostly lime, very low strength, around 75, maybe 100 psi.
Where would you even use that?
You'd only use it if you were restoring a medieval ruin or a very specific historic monument that requires extreme softness and breathability. It's rarely sold in bags. You usually have to mix it custom on site.
So we have the scale. M is rigid and strong. N is balanced and flexible. O is soft. Now let's go to the roof. Let's solve the chimney paradox.
This is the classic failure mode. This is where good intentions go to die.
Okay, set the scene for us. I'm a homeowner. I need to repoint my chimney. The joints are crumbling. Maybe a weed is growing out of it.
A very common problem.
I go to the hardware store. I think my chimney is outside. It gets hammered by rain, snow, wind, and freezing cold. I need the toughest stuff possible. I grab the Type M.
You grab the Type M because you equate hard with durable. You patch up your chimney. It looks great. You feel like you've built a fortress. You pat yourself on the back for a job well done.
And what happens next winter?
Disaster. Absolute disaster. You have introduced a hardness mismatch. You have to remember what a chimney is experiencing. It is arguably the most stressed part of a house.
Why is that? More than the foundation.
Think about the environment. The bottom of the chimney is inside your warm house, maybe 70 degrees. The top is sticking out into the freezing wind, maybe it's 10 degrees outside.
Okay, big temperature difference.
And the inside of the flue is blasting hot smoke from the fire, maybe 400 or 500 degrees. The outside face is freezing.
So the whole thing is moving constantly.
It is expanding and contracting constantly. Thermal shock. Now, brick is a clay product. It moves a certain amount. It expands when hot, contracts when cold. But you have just locked those moving bricks into a grid of Type M mortar, which is 2,500 psi of rigid stone. It does not move.
It's a straitjacket.
Exactly. The brick tries to expand. The mortar says no. Stress builds up at the contact point, right where the brick and mortar touch. Something has to give. Physics dictates that the weaker material will fail.
And in this case, the brick is weaker than the mortar. I would have thought it's the other way around.
Yes, modern brick is strong, but Type M mortar is often harder and stronger in compression than the masonry unit itself. So the mortar shears the face off the brick. We call it spalling.
I've seen that. I know exactly what you're talking about, where the front edge of the brick just looks like it popped off. It looks like someone took a chisel to it.
That is almost always caused by mortar that was too strong for the brick. You have violated the golden rule of masonry.
Which is?
The mortar must always be the sacrificial element.
Sacrificial? That sounds dramatic.
It is the core philosophy of the trade. The mortar is there to die so the brick can live.
Wow.
It is cheap and easy to grind out a joint and repack it with new mortar every 50 or 75 years. It is incredibly expensive and difficult to replace a shattered brick in the middle of a load-bearing stack.
So by using the strong Type M, you flipped the equation. You made the brick the victim.
You made the permanent part of the structure the weak link. But the hardness mismatch is only half the problem.
Only half. What's the other half?
The other half is moisture.
Right. You mentioned Type M is impermeable. It seals out water. Isn't that what we want on a roof? We want it to be waterproof.
It's a trap. It's a total trap. No masonry wall is perfectly waterproof. Water will get in, maybe through a hairline crack between the brick and mortar, maybe through the porous clay of the brick itself, maybe through a faulty chimney cap. Water always finds a way.
Okay, so water is inside the wall. It's inevitable. Now what?
Now, if you used Type N, the breathable stuff, that water can migrate through the lime-rich pores of the mortar and evaporate out into the air. The mortar acts like a wick.
Oh, interesting.
It draws the moisture out of the wall and releases it. The wall breathes. It exhales the water.
But if you use Type M...
If you use Type M, that mortar is a dense, glass-like barrier. It traps the water inside the brick. The water has nowhere to go. It hits the mortar joint and stops cold.
It's a swimming pool inside the clay.
It's a waterlog or brick.
Yeah.
And then January comes. The temperature drops to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. That trapped water freezes.
And ice expands.
It expands by about 9% in volume. That is a massive, unstoppable hydraulic force. If that water is trapped inside the pores of the brick, because the mortar won't let it out, the ice shatters the brick from the inside out. You essentially build a bomb inside your chimney.
This explains the white powder I see on chimneys too, doesn't it? Efflorescence. That's related to this whole moisture thing.
Yes, that's directly related. Water traveling through masonry dissolves salts from the brick, the mortar, or even the air pollution. When the water gets to a surface and evaporates, it leaves the salt behind.
It's like the salt ring on a glass of water after it dries.
Exactly. Now, if you have type N mortar, the water evaporates through the mortar, the path of least resistance.
Right.
So you get white powder on the joints. You take a hose, wash it off or brush it off, no big deal. The mortar is taking the hit. It's doing its job.
The mortar takes the hit again.
But with type M, the water can't get out the joints. It is forced to push its way through the face of the brick. The salts crystallize just under the surface of the brick face. This creates incredible internal pressure, we call it subfluorescence, and it literally flakes the face of the brick off.
It's tragic. You think you're protecting your home with the mighty M, but you're accelerating its destruction.
You are creating the perfect conditions for its failure. And that is why the Brick Industry Association, the experts who literally make the bricks, explicitly recommend type N for chimneys.
The 750 PSI stuff.
That 750 PSI stuff. They want the flexibility. They want the breathability. They know their product needs to move and breathe to survive.
So type N is the Goldilocks mortar. Not too hard, not too soft, just right for the chimney.
Exactly. It has enough cement to be durable for decades, but enough lime to flex and breathe and manage moisture properly.
It really changes how you look at older buildings.
Yeah.
I walk past these 100-year-old row houses in the city, and the mortar looks, well, it looks old, it's weathered, maybe recessed a bit, but the bricks are pristine.
That is a healthy wall. The mortar is doing its job. It is weathering so the brick doesn't have to.
And the opposite.
If you see a wall where the mortar looks brand new and hard as steel, but the bricks are cracking and spalling all around it, someone tried to outsmart the system.
They broke the Mason work code.
They ignored the chemistry. They thought strength was just one number, PSI. But resilience is a function of compatibility.
Strength without flexibility is a weakness. That feels like the bumper sticker for this entire deep dive.
It applies to material science, and honestly, it applies to a lot of things. If you are too rigid, you break.
I want to circle back to the autogenous healing one last time regarding the chimney. Because chimneys sway, right, in the wind.
They absolutely do. In high winds, a tall chimney stack will move. It vibrates. If you have a rigid type M mortar, that vibration causes microcracking.
And those cracks just get bigger.
They get bigger and let more water in. But if you have type N, the lime allows for a tiny bit of plastic flow. It can absorb that movement without snapping, and if small tracks do form, the rain reacts with the lime and heals them over time.
It's a self-maintaining system.
Within reason, yes. It buys you time. It prolongs the life of the entire structure.
So, practically speaking for our listeners, if they are hiring a contractor to fix their chimney or their front steps, what is the one question they should ask?
Ask them what type of mortar they plan to use. Simple question.
And if they say,
oh, I use the high-strength stuff, type M, it lasts forever. Or if they just say, I put a lot of cement in there to make it good and strong, you should politely show them the door.
that's a red flag.
It's a huge red flag. It shows they don't understand the material science. You want to hear them say, I'll use type N, or even better, I'll analyze the existing mortar and match its hardness and composition, probably a type N or even type O if it's historic.
You want a mason who understands the sacrifice.
You want a mason who respects the system, not just the raw materials.
This has been a fascinating look at the gray stuff. We went from sand skeletons to crystal forests to exploding bricks.
It's a hidden world. Once you understand it, you never look at a building the same way again. You start looking at the joints, not just the bricks.
And I want to leave the listener with a thought. We spend a lot of time in our modern world trying to optimize for maximums. Maximum efficiency, maximum strength, maximum speed. We gravitate toward the type M solutions in our lives. We want to be bulletproof.
We armor ourselves, yeah.
But as we saw today, sometimes the type N approach, the one that is a little softer, a little more porous, a little more willing to take a hit to save the whole, is actually the one that survives the winter.
That's a great way to put it. Sometimes the best way to stand tall is to be willing to flex.
So go check your chimneys. And maybe scratch the mortar with a key. If it scratches, don't panic. It might just be doing its job.
Exactly.
Thanks for diving in with us.
My pleasure. See you next time.